The policy I've announced today is to stop the price rises that are predicted for October this year and January of next year from happening. So at the moment, the price cap is about to change in 11 days' time, which will take the average energy bill from just under £2,000 to £3,500, and then up again in January to £4,200. So many households are just going to shudder even hearing those figures and say we can't afford that. So I've said stop that. Under a Labour government, we would not allow that to happen, and we will instead have a windfall tax on the oil and gas companies in the North Sea who've made much more profit than they were expecting, and use that to hold those prices down. Because we've got a choice here: we either allow oil and gas companies to continue to make huge profits while every household suffers, or we do something about it. And under the Labour Party, under my leadership, we do something about it, and we stand with all those struggling households who, without our intervention, are going to have a really, really tough winter. We haven't seen any credible proposals from the candidates involved in the leadership race. What we've seen is two individuals engaged in an internal battle with each other, tearing each other out. Their main argument seems to be that their record in government has been so awful that you ought to vote for one or other of them. It's very unusual for a government to be trashing its own record whilst it's still in government, but that's what they're doing. On the cost of living crisis, they're not saying anything meaningful. We've put out a fully costed, comprehensive plan, and that answers the question, what are you going to do for households this autumn when those prices go up? We haven't seen anything from the candidates that matches that. Meanwhile, you've got Boris Johnson, who insisted that he stay in post. We were saying he should go once he resigned. He said, no, it's important I stay in post. He last week acknowledged there's a real problem with energy prices going up, and then said, almost in the same breath, but I'm not going to do anything about it, that's for somebody else in the future. It's just not good enough. What I want to see is action on this that's going to help people in the course of this winter. When we first came up with the windfall tax idea in January of last year, the government said, no, we would never do that, it's wrong in principle, etc., etc. And for 5 months they let families struggle and households struggle. Then they U-turned and adopted our position. On reducing VAT or eliminating VAT on fuel bills, again, we said that last January. Rishi Sunak then rubbished it until about a week or so ago when he suddenly said, oh, actually, I do think that's the right idea. So if you look at this, there's a constant pattern, which is Labour putting the practical solutions on the table, the government saying, no, they're not the right ones, and then months later adopting them. But what I want to see is something that helps so many people this winter, because I've been talking to people locally here. They're really worried about whether they're going to pay their bills. Last winter, I was talking to pensioners, 84-year-old pensioner with mobility problems, who told me she was too scared to put her central heating on and sat in a sort of woolen jacket all day just to keep warm. We can't allow that to happen again.